So she's making us work for it, but I'm happy to spend as long as it takes to show you a few more glimpses of her. It's difficult. Usually now on the Game Drive channel we would be communicating with one another, making sure that myself or either Johan, who's the other vehicle in the sighting, has got a visual of the animal, which at the moment we are both unsure. Okay. Again, it's too soon to panic, and we will now loop around to where I did last see her heading. We're very close to a road here. And I'm just actually going to get onto it. It's incredible how they can throw you off their path. Not purposefully, she's just going about her business here with no concern of us. But in a very short space of time, if you are heading in the wrong direction, an animal can cover a lot of distance. Which is beautiful. Watching her pace down through this golden grass on a beautiful sunny morning here. Like I say, her behavior is very interesting. She's moving with a lot of intent but zigzagging from side to side, and I wonder what it is. Maybe she can smell the sense of another female that's been here, and that's why she may well be continuing to scent mark intensely. And these intense scent marks will therefore re-establish that it's her territory and not another female's, and she may even potentially want to have a fight with another female if it comes to that, in order to chase her off her territory. It's difficult because she's in very thick bush, but I'm just going to stand by her for a second in the hope that she might come back in a westerly direction, but it's not looking promising, and she's heading off further to the east to an area where we cannot go, sadly. But at least we got a glimpse of her. Well, that was really wonderful, and each sighting is always different. It doesn't matter if you're viewing the same animal. There's always differences, and this morning was a few brief glimpses of a beautiful leopard that was on the move, highly active, which is the best way to actually see them. They can spend many hours every day asleep, so we can consider ourselves lucky that we got to see it on the move. And now we can continue in search of other things. I'm not sure what else is out there. The radio is causing trouble for all of us guides. We're all battling to communicate with one another this morning. But here comes another guide, Ryan, who I'll be able to chat with and see how his morning's going.
Scotty.
Morning, Ryan. How are you, buddy?
Welcome back, brother.
Thank you very much. Morning, everyone. How are you doing? So, good morning.
Hey, fairly quiet on your side, though.
Yeah.
Did you hear about Shadow and Mantuan there on Zebra Drive?
No. What's happening there?
She was just hanging around there.
Okay.
So if the guys establish a lock again, I'll send you guys a message later.
Okay, awesome. Thanks very much. Our radio is all, we're having huge trouble here.
Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
This is why I'm here.
In search of silence.
Exactly.
Cool. Just to let you know, the Karula is with Johan. She's just crossed over.
Okay.
And you might see him foraging around.
Okay, cool.
Not far down there, but I'm not sure if she's going to come back or...
Okay,
she
yeah.
has crossed east, though.
Awesome. Well, I'll go check it out. I'm actually looking for a dwarf now.
Okay.
Cool, Scotty.
Good. Have a good morning, everyone.
Bye, all.
We'll see you later. For touch.
I've
not.
just got some reserve work to do, so I'm hoping to be finished, but otherwise I'll check for touch, yeah?
Okay, awesome.
Cheers, brother.
Ability and knowledge to be able to look at the leopards and be able to, judging by the different spot patterns on them, know exactly who it is. And Raisa has confirmed that it was in fact Karula. And again, thank you, Raisa, for that information. And it is useful for us to confirm certain sightings and animals, because now we know that this is Karula. She's been scent marking heavily in this northeastern corner of Djuma's property. And it's just useful for us to know, because territories change. It can be attributed, I guess, to human wealth. And just like all of our bank balances fluctuate, and our wealth increases and decreases for many varying reasons, the same will happen for a leopard. There will be a part of any leopard's life where they don't have a lot of territory, and they might be slinking around between different territories, flying below the radar, avoiding bigger, more dominant leopards. And then as they grow older and become more dominant, their territory will get to a maximum, a kind of peak size, when they are in their prime. And then obviously when they start getting old and weak again, then their territories will begin to decrease in size. And there's various factors that are personal, so her own age and her own strength, her own health. But there's also external factors, other leopards moving into the other areas, other leopards growing up, becoming bigger, stronger, that may start to push her out of her territory. So very useful for us to see where she is marking her territory and where she's moving. And it's the knowledge of us knowing where they move that helps us to sometimes find them. So of the leopard family trees and the lineage of the different predators that we may see. It can sometimes be that you will see a female leopard mating with a specific male, and that way you'll know that in about 3 months' time you can expect to see leopard cubs, because it's about a 90 to 100 day gestation period. In this specific case, we didn't see her mating, but we do know that she lost cubs, very small cubs that she had just given birth to. We're not sure how the initial cubs were killed or how many there were, but we know that her final remaining cub was killed by a hyena. It does happen fairly commonly out here, and it's a big factor that causes leopard to lose their cubs. So since she lost those cubs, though, that final cub to hyena, that was at the end of December last year, they can come into season again very quickly and then mate within weeks of losing their cubs in order to get the next generation into the system. And as I said, we didn't see her mating, but I'm almost certain that she would have mated within a month after losing those cubs, which means that in the coming months we could expect babies. So we're just going on the assumption that because she lost cubs at the end of December, she could have mated within a month or two of that period, a 3-month gestation period. Anytime now, we could see some tiny leopard-colored fur balls. Hopefully. Now, I'm not sure exactly what to do next, but as long as we're out here exploring, we could bump into anything. We're approaching Buffalo's Hook Dam. Again, it's not the hottest day yet, and waterholes are typically more active when it is warmer, but there's nothing to say that there isn't something drinking right this second. And we are heading into our dry winter, and water sources are few and far between. Even though we did get a few downpours in the last week that have filled up a few puddles with water. I might actually even be able to show you one of these little puddles of water where possibly Karula, the same leopard we've just seen, actually drank. Myself and Stefan were out looking for animals yesterday to try and help Brent out, and we followed tracks of in all likelihood Karula up to Buffalo's Hook Dam. But just before she got to the dam, there was a little puddle where we saw her footprints depress into the mud and show us exactly where she drank. I'm going to stop there and see if we can show you that as well. Just got a question through from Ellen on email. Good morning, Ellen, and welcome. And also thank you very much for sending this through, Ellen. Ellen is interested to know, she heard Ryan, the other ranger that we saw briefly now, mention something about Shadow and her Bantuan. And Shadow is a female leopard who occurs to the west of where we are here. It is one of Karula's daughters from a previous litter, and Shadow has been seen this morning with the Bantuan. Bantuan in the local language means baby, and basically they have been seen this morning in a different area to where they had their kill yesterday. So obviously they lost their kill, and they are somewhere on Arathusa, but it's a very thick area and we're very far from there, so we're probably not going to see them this morning. Bernie, I've got some good news. There was Karula heading east with Johan from just south of Pipeline, Cheetah Line. So if you're interested, yeah. Yeah. Cool. Buffalo's Hook, Johan. No problem. Okay, well, we didn't find any animals at Buffalo's Hook Dam, but we did find Bernie, and he's been keeping an eye out on all the animals here for us, so at least we've had some info from him, and that info is that there's nothing here at the moment, so that's perfect. Now what I'm going to try and do is show you. Oh, it's going to be difficult. Let me try and reposition ever so slightly. Actually, we can. You'll probably notice, even before Andrew zooms in too much, that there's a series of toes and pug marks heading down to this little puddle. And if you can zoom in now, Andrew, keep going, keep going. And a little bit towards us away from the water. There you can see a few of her paw prints. The water has subsided quite greatly since she drank here, but just a little bit up more. They're the two that were closest to the water in the top right of the screen. Not easy for you to see, but there are some leopard tracks, and you can see the little toe prints there. And this puddle has dried up considerably from yesterday. It's almost a third as full, so these little puddles that we did get filled up by the rain are now going to start drying up, as you can see, and what that means is we can expect more action at the water holes. So there'll be less latent water lying around in these puddles, which helps us. Teresa in Virginia Beach, good morning and welcome. Teresa's interested to know that whether, if Karula, the female leopard we have just seen, did have cubs in that area, would her scent marks attract unnecessary attention to the cubs? I guess potentially, but regardless of where she scent marks, other animals will move. So I don't think it's going to have a huge impact if she did have cubs around. In the same token, though, I have yet to see a leopard ever scent mark in and around the den sites that she's using, but they are very secretive, and often for the first few weeks of a leopard's life, we may not know where their den site is or even see the cubs or know that they're born until she actually reveals them. They get born very small and underdeveloped and take a week or two before they can even become vaguely in control of their eyes and their legs. And in this very small and fragile and vulnerable stage, they are tucked away often in caves or burrows. But it's a good question. I sadly cannot refer back to any memories I have of leopard scent marking around her den site, but I don't think that she does have cubs there. I think she's mainly just going around establishing her territory and also possibly working out if there was another female working in that or moving through that area. It will obviously have an impact on where she does decide to give birth, the density and movement of other leopard. There will be an overflow and a fringe on the end of territories where territories overlap. It's not quite as clear cut and defined as us as humans do. Maybe we'll have a fence around our house and inside is ours and outside is not ours. You know, the animals here don't have those clear cut lines, and there is often overlap. And in those areas of overlap, which this would be for her, it's her northeastern territory, part of her territory, it could be an area where she might need to go over and ensure that other leopards do know that she is also moving there. In terms of the threat to cubs, though, and the den, I'm not too sure. That's where I'm from. That's where I'm from.
And get you back on the vehicle with us.
Welcome back, everyone, and apologies for the patchy signal that we had through that area. It's my favorite road on the property and it's got the worst signal, so not ideal scenario to be in because I like driving down there, but sadly there's no signal. And whether or not we like driving down there, sometimes we just end up needing to take that road because it would make sense for us to have a short break in broadcast quality in order to be able to get to where we are needing to go. It also varies from day to day. Some days we can drive there and the signal's fine, and others it's not, so it's all quite a mystery to me. Anyway, apologies and welcome back, and hopefully no more glitches going forward. For those of you who have just joined in, we've had a great morning so far. The hyena den site was active where we started. We saw some giraffe, a few nice birds along the way, and then a few moments with Karula, a beautiful female leopard who was moving around quite intensely, zigzagging, patrolling and scent marking. But sadly she headed off into our neighbors to the east, so we waved her goodbye and are now in search of something else. By something I mean anything, and whatever we do come across out here that's interesting, be it bird or mammal or reptile or tree, we will stop and show you. I am thinking though of heading into the general area of a young male leopard that was seen yesterday afternoon with Brent, and it's the son of Karula from a previous litter. They're coming on about 2.5 years of age now, the two brothers, quarantine in Djuma. And he was last seen up in kind of northwestern parts of Djuma, so on the opposite corner to where his mother was this morning. And I'm guessing that we might have a chance of finding him. He doesn't typically spend too much time up there, and I'm hoping he would have come back south, deeper into Djuma, and that is where we are going to go and explore right now. It can cover huge distances at night and during the day even, depending on how hungry they are or what they have come across on their travels. But it is useful to go and keep searching and checking areas where you know a leopard's moved fairly recently. In this case, last night he was seen there, because by keeping tabs on their movements on a daily basis, it's easier to know where to find them. Now, even if we don't find him this morning, but we just find some of his tracks heading back in towards Djuma, then at least we know vaguely what's going on. But if we miss that opportunity of reading into the tracks and signs the animals leave behind, and another other animals come and walk on top of his tracks, then we will lose that information and not have a clue where to start searching for him. Oh, we've got some big old buffalo bulls leading us to the Gowrie Dam, or Vuyatela Dam. Now on their way to go and relax and chew the cud. It's actually really awesome because one is caked in mud from wallowing and the other isn't. I'm just going to try to get them both in the same shot so you can see a contrast. Look at that. So the one on the left, as you can see, is covered in mud that they'll purposefully cover themselves in to help create a barrier to keep the flies off them. And Andrew, if you try and zoom in closely onto the one in the front, you will see thousands and thousands of flies moving on his body as he moves. Look at that. I would not want to be that buffalo. Imagine how frustrating it must be. The one at the back doesn't have any flies on it, well, not nearly as many. So whether the flies are attracted to the mud, I'm not too sure. But they've got different beauty techniques. The one in the front likes to use the muddy mask, and the other one prefers to just use its tail to keep the flies at bay. They're very close to the waterhole, so whoever the zoomie is this morning, who's controlling the 24-hour live cam at this waterhole, get ready for 2 visitors. They're about to arrive. And basically, just to reiterate, there's a live waterhole camera at the waterhole that we're about to arrive at. And there's various people all around the world who have got permission and access to control the camera during the various slots or hours during the day. So there's somebody permanently manning and controlling where that waterhole camera zooms into. And there's often some great sightings that are had and some great information that gets handed on to us of animals that may have come down to the waterhole to drink, just like these old boys are about to do. The flies on this buffalo are absolutely mind-blowing. I'm just going to try and get into position in order to show you him walk past us, and that way hopefully see a few more of these flies that are pestering him. Okay. Now, as he moves, and as Andrew zooms in closer, you will notice a thick swarm of flies. There we go. Buzzing around him. Look at that. It's absolutely phenomenal how many they are. Look at that. Waves and waves of these flies that are now coming on to us. So now we've also got some stowaways who've jumped on board our vehicle. And what can you do other than embrace the flies? Andrew's got his buff on, so it's protecting most of his face from them, but there's still a few little exposed pieces of skin that they can get onto. Well, we're going to leave these boys to it, and if you would like to take a closer look at them, tune into the live waterhole camera, because they'll be able to show you the buffalo, and we will be able to go and show you something else, hopefully. So like I said before, we did come across these old boys. Oh, and another one. We are going to head up to the northwestern corner of our property and see if we can track down a young male leopard. There's been no sign of any lion around, and the lion do have bigger territories than the leopards and are sometimes not necessarily on Djuma. We just got a question through from Doug in Connecticut. Good morning, Doug, and welcome to this morning's drive. Doug is interested to know how myself and Stefan managed to track down Quarantine yesterday afternoon, and it's good that you asked, Doug, because it's actually quite a funny story. We basically had an idea that he was in this area because just after Brent finished the morning drive, we managed to find Quarantine very close to where we were now with those buffalo, close to the dam. And we found him on foot. We were walking into the bush because we could hear monkeys alarm calling, and we wanted to get into there quickly and quietly in order to try and find whatever it was that the monkeys were alarm calling at. We were fairly certain that it was him because we found his footprints on top of our vehicle tracks, and we knew he had driven that road earlier in the morning. So we were convinced that we were hot on the heels of this leopard. Then the monkey started alarm calling, and we went in on foot, got a glimpse of him, and then he disappeared. It's quite a thick area, this, and we didn't manage to relocate him in the vehicle, but we had a very good idea of where he was. We then headed out in the afternoon with the intentions of looking for him again, and we found his tracks up ahead, a fair distance from where we saw him in the morning, but they do move during the day. And we followed those tracks up a road, and we got to a section of the road where the tracks were very difficult to see. Depending on the substrate of the road, it can get very hard and therefore difficult to see a depression left in the sand by the animals. And in this specific case, there was a fork in the road, and at that fork in the road we thought, let's both jump out. And I went up and checked ahead on the left-hand fork, and Steph walked further behind us to check if the leopard hadn't disappeared off the road before it got to this hard section where we couldn't really see anything. So we split up. I went forward, Steph went backwards. I didn't find any of his tracks on the left-hand fork. Steph could establish that his tracks were still coming towards where the vehicle was parked, and he was on his way back to the vehicle. When I got back to the vehicle, I saw the leopard. So very close to the vehicle, I saw the leopard off in the distance on the right-hand fork of the road. And at this stage, I didn't know exactly where Steph was, so I was kind of panicked. I heard some rustling in the bushes that I saw the leopard looking at, and I didn't know if it was Steph trying to creep away or hide from the leopard. It turned out to be a Franklin though, and Quarantine stalked a Franklin. Steph came up from the back of the vehicle, we jumped in and called Brent over to enjoy. So it was quite funny that we had both basically split up from the vehicle, got back to it, and the leopard was in sight of the actual vehicle. I think it had moved because when we did get off the vehicle initially, it certainly wasn't where I saw it when we got back. But we got lucky, and always a rewarding feeling to be able to follow an animal's footprints and find it. It's not always the case, that's for certain. So myself and Steph got lucky, and great to spend time in the bush again with Steph. He was one of my mentors when I started out my guiding career for a lodge that he also used to work for, and he's an extremely experienced and knowledgeable guide that we are lucky to have on the Wild Earth team with us now. So it's been great spending time with them after all these years, when he once upon a time was training me and teaching me a lot of the stuff I know today. So we certainly would never have imagined that we'd both end up here now working for the same company doing the same thing. But certainly very happy that our paths have crossed again. So yeah, Doug, that's the long story as to exactly what happened with the leopard tracks and how we found quarantine yesterday. It's interesting, he probably moved about a mile during the course of the day, and it was hot yesterday, so it does dispel the myths and thoughts that leopards are only nocturnal and that they'll only move at night. They'll certainly move during the daylight, and even on the hottest days in summer, leopards can be on the move. Andrew, do you need a toilet break, or are you okay? Cool. Three hours is a long time to be sat in the vehicle on the move, so I was just making sure that Andrew was in control of his bladder, which he is for now. Just got wind of Ephraim on the radio, so I just want to try and get a hold of him because he's the only guy that I have been able to copy this morning. Ephraim. I'm Shannon 4. You're the only person that I can speak to. How's everything? Okay, do you have any updates? Okay, copy, thank you. We left Karula going east over Cheetah Cut Line, north of Pipeline with Johan about half an hour ago. Okay. Again, just apologies, all the game drive vehicles for some reason this morning are having trouble communicating with one another. So maybe there was an animal, a monkey or a baboon up one of the signal towers playing with some wires that it shouldn't have been playing with. Who knows? But I can chat with Ephraim, who's one of the guides, and he just updated me on how his morning's been. No negative, I didn't copy that, but thank you very much. But sadly, he's got no information that's relevant to where we can traverse. There's some other lion, two members of the Matimba Coalition, which is the dominant male lions in this area. They're further to the north of us. Another pride of lion called the Torchwood Pride is on Torchwood to the east of us. We don't get to see them, and I've yet to see any members of the Torchwood Pride. And even though it's not good for our viewing this morning, at least the animals have been located, and by knowing where they are, it helps to keep tabs on them and easier to find them if you are constantly hot on their trail. Whereas if you lose track for a few days, you could lose bearings of where to look for them. a lion track here, but it doesn't look very fresh. I'm just going to double check to see if there are any more that I can look at. Just look at one track wouldn't be wise, because it's better to look at a whole string of tracks, and that way get a better idea of what exactly may be the scenario. Sadly, we've narrowly missed some elephants. It looks like a small herd of elephants that crossed into the north where we cannot go. But they were around, and there's some footprints of theirs indicating that to us. So, this is just our northern boundary that we've turned onto, and anywhere from here we could expect to find tracks of quarantine, a young male leopard that we've come into the area to look for. It certainly would be within a feasible range from where he was seen yesterday for him to get to here. So I'm going to be checking carefully as we go for any footprints or any other signs that could lead us to him. I often wondered to myself how we ever actually do manage to find anything out here. I guess we do spend hours and hours looking for them, but when you consider how many hiding places there are and how good a lot of the animals' camouflage is, like I said, it's a miracle we actually get to show you anything. And that always plays on my mind when we are searching for things. Also varies on the area of the reserve that you drive in, and all wilderness destinations will have a similar scenario to this. The roads aren't built in uniform squares or grids as they would potentially be built in a city or something that we could relate to. The roads and pathways are built in order to kind of follow riverbeds or certain watercourses, or also in certain areas where it's simply too thick to put a road, there aren't many roads. So you get areas with high road densities where there's a lot of options to sneak in and out of the roads and therefore cover ground. And there's other bigger blocks where there's huge distances between any roads and big gaps where animals may hide in the middle of that block and you would have no idea that they are there. So it's not possible for us to access everywhere easily, and I'd say probably in terms of percentage we can probably access from the roads about 20% to 30% of the wilderness area that we get to traverse. The rest of which becomes very difficult to get to. It's not impossible, especially with this little vehicle that takes us places where not many other vehicles can go. But it is something to bear in mind when we are searching for the animals. There's a very, very interesting animal that I've just found the track of here. And I'm going to get you guys to identify which animal it is. Is that going to work for you, Andrew?
Yes.
So you'll notice there's some tracks in the sand. I'm just going to chat to Texan quickly. Go ahead, Texan. Texan, she crossed east over Chillicut line, just north of Pipeline. Johan was still with her, but I left her about 45 minutes ago. It is difficult in the sunlight and the way the shadow's being cast, but I'm just going to try and change our angle slightly, and that way you may be able to see the tracks more clearly. Does that help, Andrew? Oh, I really want you to see these tracks. Oh, there we go. So you can all see that track. I'm going to jump out and give you an idea of how big it is.
Ooh, I'm not on that one. I'm on that one there.
This one.
Yeah, that one.
So there's my hand. It's about the size of a hand, a bit bigger than a hand. And please send your answers through to what animal that belongs to, and specifically that animal's name. You can all tell us exactly who that animal is. It's a very friendly animal. It's not dangerous to us at all. And there's only one of them out here. They're very actually rare, the specific form of the animal. But they've provided us with, well, it has provided us with a lot of entertainment over the last few weeks and months. So let us know who that was walking down the road. Sadly, the animal was heading in the wrong direction for us to follow, and we're not going to follow those tracks this morning, but we are going to keep searching for tracks of a male leopard that are hopefully going to pop out in this area. It's such a beautiful morning. It hasn't got as hot as I was expecting. It was a crisp, cool breeze. It was 16 degrees Celsius, which is about 61 degrees Fahrenheit. And it really is a wonderful time of year to be on safari in this part of South Africa. We've most often got cloudless blue skies and sunny days. May wrap up a few black warm clouds. Then as it warms up and the sun most often got cloudless blue skies and sunny days. We've most often got cloudless blue skies and sunny days. Wrap up a few black warm clothes. Then as it warms up and the all the areas where we have sometimes got sketchy signal on the perimeter of our broadcasting range, I guess, yeah. But it's unavoidable because we needed to come here in search of this leopard, so apologies for the brief delay, but it is hopefully going to be worth everyone's while when we find this leopard in the next few minutes. If we did find this leopard in the next few minutes, it would be sheer fluke because it wouldn't have required much skill. We haven't even found a track or responded to an alarm call. So I'm actually joking. The chances of us finding one in 5 minutes are slim, but still possible. Just got an update from Tyre and Final Control. It's now warmed up to 21 degrees Celsius, which is about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's warming up slowly, but still a very pleasant day. Andrew, we've got a flying target inbound. Gone spot on with the camera work. Andrew, we've got a flying this bird is coming straight towards us, and Andrew's side to side which bird it is, and sadly raptors, and due to the fact that they do have that shorter tail, they tend to teeter from side to side as their balance isn't very good. Ah, here we go. We've got somebody getting their breakfast. And I love watching these birds. I've got such incredible skill in picking up the tiniest of little insects and feeding on them. We can't even see what it is that it's feeding on from here, but I can tell you what it is because you'll notice a small dried piece of what is buffalo dung just in front of it, and it would have flown down, and you see how it just dislodged some more buffalo dung there. By overturning the buffalo dung, it exposes the tiny termites that are busy trying to break down that buffalo dung in order to recycle those nutrients back into the earth. Sadly, some of them are getting intercepted and they themselves are being recycled nutrients back into the earth. But that is the circle of life that we live in out here, and it's the hornbill who's the predator this morning. A beautiful yellow-billed hornbill. They spend a lot of time feeding on the ground, and you can see it's very comfortable hopping around. Oh, that was a grasshopper it got. Well done. Well, we didn't get to see the Karula, the female leopard, hunting a little bit earlier, but I'm certainly happy watching this little bird go about hunting. And regardless of what predator you are looking at out here, they are all highly specialized and equipped in getting their food. They often make it look a lot easier than it really is. Now we could look out for other hornbills in this area. This is the yellow-billed hornbill, but we also get the red-billed hornbill, which looks very similar other than the fact that their beaks are different color, and the red-billed hornbills are slightly smaller. Also we get the grey hornbill, which is a uniform drab grey, so not nearly as good looking. And then a cousin of theirs, the ground hornbill, which is also a hornbill, but doesn't look really anything much like these guys. They're large birds. So those are the main ones we get here. But you do get various hornbills that occur throughout Africa. Some that are designed and evolved to live in dry, open areas, and others that are highly adapted to forest life. But a beautiful species of bird. Okay, well, we've got some answers as to whose tracks we were looking at earlier, and well done to all of you that got it right. And the correct answer would have been one Mark Weiner, also known as the Barefoot Professor. So, for those of you who are new, he's one of the other presenters, but he's allergic to shoes, he cannot wear them, and that is why we know that it was him walking down that road, because he would be one of very few people to walk around this area without shoes on. Again, big thanks to Mark and Stefan, who are out this morning searching for animals to share with us and to therefore share with all of you. And it was them who found Karula, the female leopard we saw a little bit earlier. Now, I've been a little bit naughty and I haven't been focusing on looking for tracks on this road. So I'm going to try and redeem myself now and quick check. There's some wildebeest that pass down here. As well as what looks to be some vervet monkeys. But no leopard. Not yet, at least. Okay, we got an interesting question that's just come through from Charlie, and he sent it through on Twitter. Morning, Charlie, and welcome on board with us. Charlie's interested to know whether, because it's getting colder in the mornings, the animals will be more scarce. And that's certainly not the case, Charlie, so that's not something we need to worry about going into the winter. I personally feel that winter is probably a better time for game viewing purposes in this part of South Africa because the summer's very, very hot. And after the first hour or so of sunlight, you'll find a lot of animals seeking shelter away from the sun. Whereas in winter, they will move throughout the colder periods. It actually often makes sense to move when it's cold. So we can find a lot of activity in the early mornings in winter. And also animals coming out to sun themselves. So I personally think the winter mornings, once the sun is up, which is when we are most often out, is going to be more productive than the summer and more productive for a longer period of time because that little window period we get of summer when it's cool in the morning but it's light enough for us to see is very short. Whereas now we could continue on game drive all day and I wouldn't be surprised to see lion, leopard or any of the animals that are typically nocturnal on the move. Yesterday is a perfect example. We tracked Quarantine, we found him a mile later that afternoon. So we probably left him or found him at 9:30 yesterday morning. We found him again at about 3:30, so 6 hours later over the course of the middle of the day. He probably moved over a mile. So good prospects, and the chilly winter mornings are going to be good for us. An important thing to remember as well, Charlie, is that each morning and each afternoon will be different. There's naturally going to be trends between winter and summer, for example, like I've just mentioned. But you can take 3 weeks or a month of morning drives and there's going to be peaks and troughs, and some mornings are going to be more entertaining or there's going to be more action than the afternoons and vice versa. There's basically always things going on out here. It's whether we're in the right place or not, and that's often the problem. But right now there could be Quarantine just close to us, just on the other side of these bushes, hunting an impala or eating an impala. But we're going to drive past and we're not necessarily going to know about it. So luck is a big factor when it comes to how much we see. I've seen some tracks here, but I'm going to just continue slowly to make sure. Nope. Again, my mind was playing tricks on me. I thought I'd seen some leopard tracks, but it was in fact a bunch of wildebeest tubes that had joined together and made what looked to be toes. Good news is we might find some wildebeest. Their tracks have continued a long way down in this direction. There's also some impala tracks heading down here. It's an animal that's going to become one of the stars of the show in the coming weeks, especially the male impala. And the reason for that is they are going to be competing very intensely with one another for specific little territories, and within those territories are going to be ladies that they're because the male impala are so caught up in this testosterone-driven rutting season, they can often forget that there's a lot of danger out here, and it's when they're fighting and making this bizarre burping roar and locking horns with one another that it provides leopard and lion with a very opportunity to almost walk up to them and jump on their back. I've seen various clips of different antelope having the same thing done to them, but in this area impala will be under attack, and I can assure you that in the next month we will see a few dead male impala dangling up in the marula trees. I will put money on it. Whereas we haven't seen a male impala up at marula tree killed by a leopard, not once, I don't think, since we've been broadcasting, which is just on 5 months now. And hopefully this rutting season will start. They've been building up, and I've noticed an increase in their kind of interaction between one another, the male impala, and I've heard once or twice this burping, gargling roar that they let out as they chase one another around. But I'm hoping that the full moon that's approaching us in the coming week is going to be one of the indicators that triggers this rutting season. It's not cast in stone, but it is often said the first full moon in May will be the start of the rutting period. So we're very close to that period now, and stand by for some impala action. I'm hoping there's going to be this herd of impala whose tracks are heading down to this clearing that we're about to arrive at, and we might be able to see a little bit of that initial tension between the males, because it will be great to try and show you as much of this build-up as possible, because it really does become intense when they're in the full swing of things. All you will hear all day and night is these impala running around chasing one another. And like I've said, it's the most bizarre burping, gurgling roar you could ever imagine. If you didn't know that it was an impala and you were just in the bush and you heard it, you would be terrified and wonder what on earth it could be. I certainly felt that way the first time I heard them doing the ruts. Come on, impala. Where are you hiding? This is the open clearing I was hoping that the impala would be frolicking in. It wasn't too long ago. Well, I suppose it's a relative length of time, but a couple of months back we were in the same clearing, basically parked where we are now, watching wild dog chase a herd of impala across to the right, and that was a great afternoon spent with both myself and Brent in the sighting, watching that pack of wild dogs. We don't see wild dogs often, and they're an incredibly entertaining and exciting animal to follow, especially when they're hunting. Sorry, last station, copying you 2 out of 5. Copy, thanks. Reading you a bit better now. Go ahead with the message. Just got a question through from MK in Los Angeles. Good morning and welcome. MK is actually asking whether we get any parrots in the Sabi Sands, and are they less active in the winter? We certainly do get parrots, and I stopped the car as soon as I heard that question because I can hear some parrots calling off in the distance. But sadly, I think it's too far for the mic to pick up that audio. It's a dim screech even for me here. But they are around. I can hear them screeching not far away from us. Sadly though, the parrot that we get to see, the brown-headed parrots, is not very big and not hugely numerous in these parts. So that, coupled with the fact that they're often in the canopy of trees searching for fruits, which makes it difficult for us to see them and show them to you, is why we don't often get to do that. Once or twice, and especially now in winter that it's drying up, we might get lucky getting them coming down to drink at the water holes, and that's where I've had my best viewings, where I could share sightings of these parrots with you. And the best I'm going to be able to do this morning is to show you a picture at least of what to expect for some of the future drives that I'm sure you'll tune into. And there are 3 parrots that we get in the Greater Kruger National Park, of which the only one that we get here is the one in the bottom right of the screen. So that's the brown-headed parrot. It's probably about 6 inches long from tip to toe, so not a very big parrot at all. The grey-headed parrot to the left is slightly bigger, but we only get them further to the north of the Kruger. And then the mayor's parrot, which looks very similar to the brown-headed, is also more common in the further northern parts of the reserve. And we will certainly do our best to try and find some for you, MK, but it's so often just the screech of their call that we hear. Oh no.
You ready to push?
Okay, well, pressure, unnecessary pressure on whatever's caused it to cut out now. So I think we can just sit it out for the last few minutes, answer a few more questions, and then we're going to get the mechanic to come out and have a look at this vehicle here, because again, I don't want to take any chances by starting it now and putting any added pressure to whatever the problem may be. Okay, we just got a question through, or an observation through from Ray. Morning, Ray. And Ray saw on the Djuma waterhole camera, the live camera that I spoke about earlier, that they saw a black flycatcher on the cam, or around the cam, and was asking if they are rare in this area. They're not rare, but they're also not very common. The tricky thing is with the black flycatcher is that they looks quite similar to the fork-tailed drongo, which is more common. Archer. Now, the fork-tailed drongo is a pitch black bird, as is the flycatcher. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a picture of both and show them to you. So on the bottom right of the screen, you'll see, on the page, you'll see the southern black flycatcher. It's got a very square tail, and you can even see the text, brown eye, square-tailed drongo, has more thick-set appearance and red eyes. So you also get a square-tailed drongo, which would look similar to this bird, and even the fork-tailed for a beginner may get confused. So that's the black flycatcher. Well done on identifying it. And now I'm just going to find the fork-tailed drongo and the square-tailed drongo in order to be able to show you those. And here we are. So fairly similar looking, but as you can see, the fork-tailed drongo has got a much deeper red eye and the very prominent fork in its tail. So we do get both, and they can be confused, but black flycatchers are not hugely rare, but certainly not as common as the fork-tailed drongos, Ray. So well done on identifying that. And from myself and Andrew, thanks so much for joining us. To Nikki and Tara in the final control room, thanks for all your help there. And to all of you, the viewers, thanks so much for following us, for sending through your questions on email and Twitter. Sorry if we didn't get to answer all of them, but it's not easy. There's a lot of questions that come through daily. And what a morning it's been. The hyena den site, some giraffe, Karula, the queen of Djuma, a beautiful female leopard, and a few other little interesting bits and pieces along the way. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I certainly have. And you can look forward to a safari with, in all likelihood, Mark this afternoon. Until that, next time, have a good one.